Returning viewers know I practice and enjoy most types of RC flying, but I do have a special soft spot for small-scale multirotor FPV, usually in the form of some brush motor tiny whoop clone. These are very portable, practically harmless to people and property around you, and most importantly, extremely fun to fly. Brands like Eachine, Fury Bee and Bold Clash have made both the multirotors themselves and the FPV equipment that goes with them more affordable than ever before. But it's not always clear what components will work with each other or what combination will produce the best result, especially to a beginner. This is exactly the problem Eachine tries to solve, and of course capitalize on, with the E013 Small Pepper, a complete ready-to-fly tiny whoop style FPV kit. This could be a perfect start for beginners curious about FPV. At the same time, experience tells us manufacturers like Eachine sometimes need a couple of tries before they get things right. Is the E013 kit an immediate success, or is it back to the drawing board for Eachine? Let's find out in this review and flight test. The Eachine E013 kit, which comes in a surprisingly compact reusable box, consists of three main parts: the quadcopter itself, a transmitter for controlling it, and goggles for viewing the FPV feed. Let's go through them one by one. Starting off with the centerpiece, the quadcopter, Eachine haven't reinvented the wheel. This is basically the Eachine E010, recognizable by its firmer frame and 6mm motors, but with an added all-in-one FPV module and a canopy to hold the camera in place and protect from crashes. While there are certainly worse models to base a tiny whoop clone on, the E010, at this point largely replaced by the improved E011, lacks the more powerful plug-in motors of the latter and uses a completely closed, as in unconfigurable and upgradable flight controller. There are a few perplexing differences though. One of these is that the E013 only has a single LED placed at the rear of the quadcopter. This is unfortunate since it means you can't see it or its low voltage cutoff warning from the first person view, like on the E011. The all-in-one FPV module offers a pretty standard 120 degrees field of view and 25mW transmission power, but claims an impressive 1000 TVL resolution. This basically means you should be able to expect a higher level of detail, but says nothing else about the overall image quality. You may notice the FPV antenna uses a linear instead of the usually favored circular polarized design, which on one hand does make for a lighter, more durable setup, but on the other probably has a minor negative impact on signal coverage. The quadcopter comes with a 200 mAh single cell LiPo with the same uncommon connector as on the previous Eachine E-series quadcopters. You also receive a set of spare 4-blade propellers, a USB charging cable, and a screwdriver to open the transmitter battery compartment. Historically, the transmitter has always been the weak spot of Eachine's tiny whoop clones. This time, you can at least tell they've tried. The design is entirely new, or should I say entirely ripped off the Bold Clash B03, and includes these premium feeling metallic sticks. For some reason. While I do appreciate the effort and wouldn't hesitate to call the new transmitter an improvement overall, it's still no home run. For example, having all the buttons unlabeled and placed right next to each other makes them impossible to tell apart at a glance, let alone without looking. As for range, responsiveness and so on, let's save that for the flight test. Another perplexing difference versus the E010, sure to make hobby enthusiasts heart sink, is that the transmitter protocol has once again been changed, this time to a seemingly new and not yet reverse engineered variant, meaning, for the time being, this is the transmitter you're stuck flying with. As mentioned, the E013 kit also includes a single antenna version of Eachine's VR006 box goggles. I say single antenna version because the ones sold separately have two, but I believe it's been shown it's not a real diversity setup anyway, so the difference is probably negligible. For box type goggles, these are unusually compact and portable, using a 3-inch screen with 4:3 aspect ratio and a sadly non-adjustable Fresnel lens to magnify the image, which may pose a problem for wearers with less than perfect sight, as there is not really any room for glasses either. The goggles are powered by a built-in 500 mAh battery, supposedly supplying an hour worth of power, which is charged using an included micro USB cable. The battery voltage along with the frequency is displayed on screen, which is a potential lifesaver as it means the goggles won't die without warning in the middle of a flight. The goggles also have buttons for selecting channel, adjusting image properties, and despite the budget character of the kit, even showing external sources through an AV in port, though no cable is supplied for this. The goggles come with the mentioned micro USB cable, a piece of adhesive foam for the nose section, and some cleaning wipes. The flight characteristics of the Eachine E013 are a mixed bag. On one hand, it's exemplary stable and hovers like it's frozen mid-air, which I found a huge plus when navigating tight indoor environments. On the other, just like the E010, it's a little underpowered for carrying an FPV module and require almost half throttle just to get off the ground. This makes it more difficult to recover from descents and avoid obstacles. The transmitter has 3 pre-programmed rates you cycle between with the press of a button, and they're actually surprisingly fast. You may want to start out on the lowest one if you're flying indoors. The yaw is especially dialed up, and I feel sadly a little out of touch with the rest of the channels, but of course preference comes into play here. The range is listed at 70 meters, but out of the box I got only maybe half of that before the quadcopter's response to input started to become spotty. For flying around an apartment it should still work fine, but for larger spaces you may want to expose and align the quadcopter's 2.4 GHz antenna vertically, which seemed to solve the issue for me. At first I was also a bit disappointed with the precision of the transmitter, but that turned out in large part related to the range as well. In fact, while nowhere near what could have been achieved with a hobby-grade transmitter had it used a known protocol, the transmitter actually allows for some decent precision once you get used to it. As for the FPV aspect, I'm happy with the E013, possibly with the exception of the all-in-one FPV module. The picture isn't especially detailed despite the specs, the color shifts around a little and the brightness is lower than on most other similar modules I've tested, but none of this is distracting enough to get in the way of the flying. The goggles works as expected and gave me acceptable reception and range from the outset, but you may want to consider ordering a circular polarized antenna such as a Cloverleaf or Pagoda along with the kit, at least if you intend to use the goggles with other setups. It's an inexpensive upgrade that can provide significant improvements. Flights last between 3.5 and 4 minutes, which is adequate in the context of Tiny Whoop clones, but then the quadcopter is noticeably lacking in power towards the end. The E013 does use the same connector as the E011, but sadly its bigger 260 mAh battery won't fit in the E13's frame without modification. In conclusion, it may not be a selection of the absolute best the Eachine catalog has to offer, but as I hope this review has shown, the E013 Small Pepper really is a complete and fully working ready-to-fly FPV kit that sells for less than just the original Blade Inductrix quadcopter. If you're a beginner, either to FPV or altogether, curious about the Tiny Whoop craze but overwhelmed by all the choices or put off by the significant buy-in, this is one place to start. Just be aware that with its close flight controller and protocol, it's in some respects a dead end. Had Eachine just based the quadcopter on the much improved E011, with its faster motors, open protocol and hackable flight board, they would have had a real killer on their hands. Well, maybe for the next version. Thank you for watching this review of the Eachine E013. As usual, I hope you feel I did my due diligence, but if you think of something I miss or you think I got wrong, please let me know in the comments, where you're of course also welcome to leave general feedback. See you soon in another review. Bye!